Hey man, are you tired? Coffee's just not doing it for you these days. Let's talk about something different. Let's talk about cacao. Cacao comes from the theobroma plant. Broma means food, and theo means, well, God. So why aren't more of us talking about this God-like food source? Packed with antioxidants, polyphenols, theobromine, which is like caffeine but without the jitters, healthy fat, low carbs, protein, magnesium, calcium, and the highest plant source concentration of iron known to man. Why aren't we consuming this stuff every day? Well, you can. Our partners at Cora Cacao offer ceremonial grade cacao, sustainably sourced, plant to paste from fair trade farms in the Mayan motherland of Guatemala. Cora Cacao is committed to delivering cacao products to you at reasonable prices in a way that makes the world a better place for all involved. Whether you're making morning cocoa lattes, iced cacao, hosting a meditation ceremony, or just doing alchemy in your mom's basement, Cora Cacao is committed to supplying you with the highest grade stuff for what you, your body, and your mind need. So head on over to coracacao.com. That's coracacao.com. Use promo code INTHEKEEP, one word, all caps, at checkout for 10% off your order. It's time to replace those bad habits with good ones, and using Cora Cacao for your energy and nutrient needs is a great place to start. I'm proud to call Cora Cacao a partner of In the Keep, and I hope that you will be proud to call them a new part of your daily routine. Much love. What is called the spirit of the void is where there is nothing. It is not included in man's knowledge. Of course, the void is nothingness. By knowing things that exist, you can know that which does not exist. That is the void. People in this world look at things mistakenly and think that what they do not understand must be the void. This is not the true void. It is bewilderment. In the way of strategy, also, those who study as warriors think that whatever they cannot understand in their craft is the void. This is not the true void. To attain the way of strategy as a warrior, you must study fully other martial arts and not deviate even a little from the way of the warrior. With your spirit settled, accumulate practice day by day and hour by hour, polish the twofold spirit, heart, and mind, and sharpen the twofold gaze, perception, and sight. When your spirit is not the least clouded, when the clouds of bewilderment clear away, there is the true void. Until you realize the true way, whether in Buddhism or in common sense, you may think that things are correct and in order. However, if we look at things objectively, from the viewpoint of laws of the world, we see various doctrines departing from the true way. Know well the spirit, and with forthrightness as the foundation and the true spirit as the way. Enact strategy broadly, correctly, and openly. Then you will come to think of things in a wide sense, and, taking the void as the way, you will see the way as void. In the void is virtue and no evil. Wisdom has existence. Principle has existence. The way has existence. Spirit is nothingness. Miyamoto Musashi.
My work is ridiculously hard for most people to understand. I do one thing, and this is extremely simply put. So I teach people to divorce from themselves, so they step outside of themselves and see their atmospheres, whether it's a solution, or excuse me, an issue, an opportunity, a person, themselves, work, whatever the atmosphere is, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter their background as well. So they're divorced and they're doing a meta-analysis. So they see it from outside themselves so they can see opportunities, answers, solutions, all the positives for that atmosphere. So it's the same thing 100% as taking a fish out of water. Before you do that, the fish thinks the water is in the entire world. But you take the fish out of the water, show it a world without the water, and now it has an entirely new cognitive structure, an entirely new of looking at things. So you put it back in the water, and it's able now to think differently, to see things in a novel way, to ideate in a much better way. So that's what I do, very simply put. Expanding upon that, it is the exact same single commonality that every greatest thinker in all of history has ever had, whether they were an expert in one field or 20 fields, it doesn't matter. They have one commonality only, and that's that they were masters of one or more fields, and they saw it at the lowest level possible, the common denominator, the root level, the universal, the concept, the algorithm, the rule, whatever you want to call it, and apply it in seemingly unrelated things. So going back to that fish, I take the fish out of water and I show it the whatever you want to call it, the novelty of thinking differently, the universal level, the algorithm, the concept, the rule, like I said, the Planck level, whatever you want to call it. Then I put them back in their water and they're using new ideas, new cognition to do whatever the hell they want to do. So that's what I do. It's complicated because it's applied to everything in existence. So I train local federal police, engineers, lawyers, doctors, anyone, because it doesn't matter. These are universal concepts. So that's a longer but slightly smaller answer to what the hell I do. It's just very complicated.
Yeah, I mean, so for the layman, essentially you like coach people. Like
Yes, for the layman, but I don't like that word coach only
I don't
because
either.
there's
If
yeah,
you had to
you know
put it
where
on
I'm going.
LinkedIn,
There,
that's you have
you
10
got
options.
every idiot. Yeah, you got every idiot out there who can't pay their mortgage or their rent next month, but they say, "Oh, I have a certificate that I'm a life coach or a motivational speaker." So I agree with you. You know exactly what I'm talking about, but I have a thing against the word coach, and I'm definitely not a motivational speaker. I just train people to divorce from themselves so they could see things that they couldn't possibly imagine before.
Yeah, but you reminded me of, Plato's cave and also of, what is it, Miyamoto Musashi
Exactly.
with, if you know the Wade broadly, you will see it
Of
in
course.
everything, and it's great, good philosophies to have, but I feel like, that whole concept of we're fish, we think that the world is the small pond that we live in, and then just kinda knowing that the universe is much bigger and coming at life with that perspective is something that every great philosopher tries to find a new way to say. And there's a million different ways that you could put it into words, and still they don't stick until they stick. So how do you get it to stick for
Exactly.
people?
Sure. So one of the lessons that I teach, again, so I don't have to say this because I hate redundancy, but the work is universal. It doesn't matter where the hell you come from and what you want to do. That's irrelevant. So to answer your question, one of the lessons that I teach in my work is I use cliches. So I teach people about the universality of this work, the universality of highly complex problem solving, which is this work, and the universality of cliches. So most people who ever exist know at least one cliche. Life is like a box of chocolate. Life is like a cricket game. Life is like chess. Life is like designing a game. Whatever. You can use that parallel, whatever you want to call it, that cliche, and it teaches the same thing. If you drill down, going to the universal level, like I spoke of a moment ago, the lowest level possible, the root level, the concept, whatever the hell you want to call it, that doesn't matter. Cliches teach the same crap. It's just that they use different words. So this group of cliches, such as life is like whatever, teaches that life is like this. It's got these kind of rules. If you master at this, you can use different syntax, semantics, excuse me, different words, but it's the same thing. So when I teach whoever I'm teaching, if I'm teaching, let's say, federal police or lawyers, it's the same crap that I'm teaching, but I'm going to tweak it one. I don't even know if I would say 5%, 1% to 5%, so it sticks. So I'm going to use terminology that cops know or soldiers know or single parents know, whatever, but it's the same thing to get it to stick into them. As I've said for since I was a kid, it is never the student's fault, unless you have an idiot, of course, that just doesn't want to learn deliberately, or some mental issue, obviously. It is always the teacher's fault. I don't care what goddamn excuse you have, it is your fault. So if you don't make the material relatable, it's your problem, and you better find a solution to make it go into that student. Otherwise, that student is not benefiting from your knowledge, and it is your fault. So that's what I do to make it to stick to people. I get it on a very low level. These are ridiculously complicated subjects, but I give it in a way that, like you said, with the way of the samurai, the way of the blade, in a very simple manner, so everyone understands it very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like I said, where you could say no matter how much you dumb it down or make it particular to one lifestyle or another lifestyle, and I even hate that we're not that we're wrong, but using the words like dumb or idiot, because I also I try to approach things, especially when I was teaching, like, it's on me to make this concept make sense to you, but also some people,
Oh yeah.
it's like not their fault that they are the way they are, that they can't grasp a certain concept. So, if you have an aptitude in one direction, uh, so in my case, it was like teaching students meteorology or something like that.
Right.
Sometimes people just aren't meant to be a meteorologist. That's fair.
Agreed.
And
Agreed. Definitely.
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, just, like, for some people, fluid physics, things like the Coriolis effect are never gonna make sense. Not because they're stupid, because their mind doesn't
Right.
function that way, right? They're
Right.
not ready for that. And I try to think of it in almost like a karmic way. Like, yeah, eventually, maybe in another life or whatever, this will be your path, but right now, you're at this stage, you're at the material world stage. So, I don't
Correct.
I used to get angry, like, watching, I don't know, people on reality TV, and they're so carelessly materialistic. In my mind, they're morons. Like, "Oh my goodness, like, how is this what you care about?"
Yeah.
Then I think,
Yeah.
is it really is this a decision for them to be that shallow, or is that who they are? Does
Yeah.
Nickelback mean to write shitty music, or do they think they're writing good?
Yeah, I think we just lost half your listeners by saying that.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. Now there's a difference, you're completely correct. Now there's a difference with someone who is, and I'm, as anyone knows who reads any of my information or sees a single media of mine, I'm an extremely in your face, blunt person. Not to be, I don't want to be an idiot, but it's because I only have a little bit of time and I want to do whatever the hell I can for humanity, for waking people up and helping them realize that, you can do just, tremendously better. So so I'm just a blunt person, but yeah, definitely if someone is not wanting to, there's a difference between desire and aptitude. So anyone can get it. It is always a teacher's fault. You just have to find the way that resonates with that person. However, that does not mean that if that person understands it, because you did find the way to resonate that material with that person, that doesn't mean the person wants to continue learning it. They may have the aptitude if you have a good teacher, but they may not give a shit. Just like you said, if someone doesn't care for fluid dynamics or meteorology, they can do it just like anyone can accomplish anything, as we know that. If you put your heart and mind to it, your desire, your energy, whatever you want to call it, your drive, In psychology, we say your emotion drives you. Then you can accomplish anything. However, that doesn't mean everyone wants to do it. But what we're saying, you and I, is that it is always a teacher's fault. If you have someone that doesn't know something, you better make sure it resonates. But that doesn't mean you force the learning upon them. You just try to help them understand. If it's not meant for them this lifetime, as you said beautifully, then they move on.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you hear a lot, especially in creative circles where people talk about like, or if you're a painter or a musician or a an artist of some kind, and you say, "Well, anyone could do this. All they have to do is try." And I'm like, in your statement, anyone can do this. It's always followed up by that if statement at the end, like if they if they cared enough, if they were willing
Right.
to make the
Yeah.
sacrifices in order to get there, if they were willing to put in the practice or all of that stuff. So I used to be really idealistic, and I've fallen into a pit of, kinda trying to be that mentor where I'm like, "Yeah, you could do this, man," like, and you root people along and you're like, "Oh, you got this. I'm sure anyone could do this if you gave it," and then I always catch myself when I'm making that "if you cared" statement.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I I think as I've grown a little bit older, maybe a little bit wiser, I've come to kind of if you've seen the movie Kill Bill, like the kung fu master, where you show up the first day and he's like, "Just go away." And then if you come back
Yeah.
the next day and the next day and you keep showing up, he's like, "Alright, I'll teach you something a little bit,
Yeah.
but I'm not wasting
Yeah.
my." Yeah, uh, and there
Yeah. You, that
it seems cruel, but it's wise in so many ways.
Yeah, you're correct, and it's only because the people with skill, such as in this case, the kung fu master in the series Kung Fu, also the old one with David Carradine, and also Kill Bill. I don't know because I only saw like one section of Kill Bill, the scene with the girl with the chain and ball, because
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was just like kick ass for me. I saw it,
Crazy
I'm like,
80s
holy
scene.
shit, that is so cool. Yeah. But with the Kung Fu thing that it was actually supposed to be done by Bruce Lee, but was taken by David Carradine, the people with the masters with the great skill, they just want to see that their time's not being wasted. They want to see that the person that they're going to engage with for X amount of hours, years, is real. So yeah, they put them through harsh times, such as, like you said, the kung fu student or the aspiring kung fu student coming back again, 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 waiting in the rain. And that's just how it is, because otherwise a lot of people waste your time.
You wanna hear something weird? It has nothing to do with what
Please.
you just said. So,
Okay.
my middle name is Kane because my mother named me for Kwai Chang Caine from the series Kung Fu.
Oh
You're
god.
you're like the only person I know who knows the TV show still.
That is so cool, yeah. You're not even old, so
No, 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 it's and the only reason I really know Kung Fu is because my my mom told me, he's like, "Yeah, I was watching Kung Fu," and I was like, "That's a cool name. That'll be his middle name." But
oh,
yeah.
that's so cool, man. That was a great show. I don't know why it's not that popular anymore. I mean, I know it's gone, but it was a wonderful show. Great
Yeah,
lessons too.
yeah, there a lot of the television series from that time frame nowadays are, on we have, like, all these different services that are sorta just live broadcasting whatever properties they own, and for whatever reason, I
Yeah.
guess Warner Brothers decided not to just freely syndicate Kung Fu. I don't know, who knows why that is, ownership, all that stuff in the film industry and everything, but it's probably
Yeah, I
available out there
know.
if someone wants to see it.
Perhaps, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I agree. It's quite hard to find because I have looked for it a few years ago.
Yeah. Where are you from originally?
Chicago. Oh, from America. So yeah, but I move all over the place. Now people ask you, they say, "Hey, doctor, where do you live?" I just say Earth, and I'm
Yeah.
only half joking because I'm talking with you from Bombay, and 2 weeks ago I was in Bangkok, and then before that I was in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Then before that I was in Saigon, Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh City is the other name for it, and then before that, I was in Bangkok, and yeah, so I'm highly nomadic. I move all over the place.
You like Asia?
Oh yeah, I love. Almost anywhere, but Southeast Asia is my favorite place, and Bangkok is my favorite city by far because it's just ridiculously big. And being from a big city myself, I need the noise, I need the energy, I need the 5 million people around me. I don't like towns and quiet areas, so it's wonderful.
Yeah, I need to put in the time to go like a proper tour of Asia. I've been all over Europe and of course all over North America and everything, but um
Mhm. That was in your military, right? Over Europe?
oh well, I only stayed stateside the entire time I was in the military. It wasn't until after I got out I
Oh,
went to work for a video game company. So I lived
okay.
in northern Denmark for a couple years, and while I was in Europe, I was like, I'll go to Switzerland, I'll go to Sweden, I'll go to Czech Republic, I'll go to
Oh,
Slovenia,
nice.
Slovakia, whatever.
Yeah.
Germany several times, the UK, just get out and see as much as I could while I was there. I didn't see everything, and I'm sure I'll go, different trips at different points, but for now, I'm back in the States.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. You speak any other languages?
Not fluently. I study a lot of languages. I would describe myself as a linguist, but not an interpreter for sure. Like, I study right now Hebrew. In the military, I studied Arabic, and Spanish, high school,
Okay.
French. So I would say I have a rudimentary understanding of lots of different languages, but I'm only a master of English.
Okay. And Arabic, I'm guessing it was MSA, Modern Standard Arabic?
No. We did learn Fusha to some degree, but my specialty
Okay.
was Iraqi Arabic, and this is during the time
Rocky.
that ISIS was taking over the north of Iraq,
Oh,
so that was kind of our
got it.
goal, was to get a bunch of people who could really speak that tongue.
Of
I think I
course.
was the very first Iraqi class that they taught at the Defense Language Institute, if I'm not mistaken. Prior to that, it was
Where was
just,
it?
Monterey,
Okay.
California.
Okay, okay. Yeah, Arabic is actually I've studied over 30 languages, but that doesn't mean I speak it. I just had to study because with my work being in holism, I have to study a whole bunch of crap all the time. So but Arabic is actually my favorite language, specifically Levantine, spoken in Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan.
Yeah.
And I love that language. Yeah, I could still read and write it, but my vocabulary is like a joke.
I I tend to, like, if I'm at an international festival or if I yeah, at a restaurant or something like that, I'll go up and be like, "Oh, marhaba," and try to spark up a
Ah,
little conversation to see what I still know, and then usually people are like, "You speak too properly," even
yeah.
or you sound like you're from this region, which is, like, hilarious. I was speaking to this Egyptian, pilot one time. He's a captain in the Egyptian army, and I walk up to him and I'm trying to be conversational in Arabic, and he's laughing because he's like, I understand you, but you sound like a redneck from America who also learned Arabic from someone who's from Iraq." And I'm like, "Well, that is
Oh
true."
God.
And then and Egyptians have this thing where every th sound, so "dhad" is like it's all
Right.
z. The z z z z z,
Right.
they're almost the
Yeah.
French of the Arabic world. And so
Yeah.
he had a funny accent. And then when I
Okay.
was in school, we had an Iraqi teacher. He was from, I wanna say he was from Baghdad, but his
Okay.
English was perfect Scottish, like, as if he
Oh
lived.
God.
Yeah. So he looked like Robin Williams, but with darker skin, and he spoke perfectly as if he were straight out of Highlander or something like that. Uh,
Wow.
and it was just so fantastic, and I'm like, where did you learn English?" And he's like, "Oh, well, my wife is from Scotland, so most of the time that I speak English, it's with her, and that's how I enunciate." And I'm like, "That is so funny." You know?
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Scottish English is the most difficult to ever understand of any English dialect in my studies, in my experience, in my opinion. It's so funny. I actually had a guy in our lodge, a lodge brother. who was from Scotland, and every time he came over to America to visit us, no one knew what the hell he's saying. He'd come up to us. I remember one time he came up to me, and he started a really super nice guy. At that time, he was like maybe 70, 75, something like that. He's like speaking. He's like, I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. He walks away. Another brother comes up to me. He's like, hey, you understand what the hell he's saying? I'm like, no idea.
Yeah.
Scottish language is really cool. The Scottish accent, really.
Yeah, we had a game designer named Robert. He's been on the show before, but he is very Scottish, big mountain of a man. And we were
Oh
doing
gosh.
this game showcase where he was going to do an interview about the game he was putting out at the time. It was called Kingpin, and
Okay.
yeah, we subtitled him like for the show. We had people
Oh
from all over
Jesus.
the world in this thing. We had a Polish guy with a Polish accent, and he was the only person we had to
Wow.
subtitle. He was the only person we
Oh
were
god.
nervous that people wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
And we put Gaelic
Yeah.
font on it and everything just to be a little dramatic.
Nice. I
Um,
really like the accent, but it's difficult to understand.
but touring around all these different places and, because having even I'm lucky, but all of the foreign countries that I've been in for the most part, at least, were Latin characters, and Germanic languages to me are really easy, at least to read. Like, living in Denmark's not that bad. You could figure out what a hospital is. It's spelled pretty close to hospital in English, but in Asia,
Okay.
I imagine, just trying to live life, grasping all of these different characters and concepts and navigations and stuff. Like, what are all some of the little subtleties that you have to deal with?
Well, of course, just logically speaking, anytime you're correct, anytime you're from a Latin-based language area, of course, that means English, the Romance languages, and you go into a non-Latin based language area, Cyrillic, Asian, all that stuff,
Mm.
then of course you're going to, at the onset, have a much more difficult time to know what the hell to see or say or anything. On top, that's number one. Number two, typically when you have non-Latin languages, they are the cognates are non-existent or very few, almost non-existent. Cognates meaning exactly what you just, and interrupt me if you know this already, exactly what you just said, where in Denmark, the word hospital, you can pretty much make it out because it sounds the same or it is the same, maybe just pronounced differently. Those are cognates. And then when you have languages of a different writing system, then the cognates almost disappear. So when I worked in China and Thailand and Vietnam, you don't have a word for toilet that
Right.
sounds like toilet in their languages. So you don't have police, you don't have hospital. Doctor is really common in many languages, but yeah, you really have to plan ahead using some kind of translator. Before the Google Translator came about and was very popular, I actually went around with a notebook, paper and pencil, just having my clients say, hey, I said, hey, can you write down hospital, police, and all that stuff if I ever need it? Turn left, turn right, and all that stuff. So they gave me a notebook and filled it up with text. So yeah, it's interesting, but it's really fun. I'm the definition of a nerd, so I love learning anything. So languages and stuff, I'm really happy to do as well.
You're listening to KEEP in the Keep. Please take a moment to tell at least one other person how much you enjoy the show. That's right. Grab that link and send it to that buddy you're thinking of who you know would be interested in what we're talking about right now. Maybe post it somewhere. I know it seems scary, but you can do it. I believe in you. Don't hesitate to leave a comment and a 5-star review, a like, wherever you're listening. And if you want, Patreon supporters for this show get episodes early, access to our secret Discord channel, chances to suggest questions to our guests, our games, and whatever else I can do for you. Every little bit helps. This podcast directly supports my ability to do what I love and take care of my growing family. The link is in the show notes. Thank you, bless you, stay in the keep. Some of the best advice I was ever given was that, if you're gonna travel around to different places, you just need to learn to kinda be okay with whatever happens, and then you'll never be disappointed. So, like, something as simple as you go into a restaurant in Spain or something like that, and then the guy comes up and he's like, "What are you gonna drink?" But he says it in Spanish, and you're like, just smile and nod, and then he's like, "Vino?" And you're like, "Yeah, sí, vino." "Okay, we
Yeah.
got wine
Mm,
coming.
mm. Yeah.
Blanco, rojo," and you're like, "Es igual." Just learn how to say, like, it doesn't matter in whatever language
Yeah.
you're in, like, anything.
Yeah.
It's fine. Be happy with what you get and then be able to just kinda live with that. That's nice. But, for the particular things, I had this experience. I was in a restaurant in Denmark, and so the word for chicken is, kylling, Kylling, and it's very
Okay.
important that Y in Danish is the sound, because an English
Hmm.
speaker would say that kylling, which means
Right.
kitten. So I sat down and ordered kylling, yeah, "Jeg vil
Yeah.
have en kylling sandwich," or something like that, and he's like, what?" S "Speak English, man, I can
Yeah.
speak English." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, we
Yeah.
can just."
Speak English because you are totally screwing up my language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're not we don't serve kitten here. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Get out of my restaurant.
You
But,
American scum.
what's the old joke about, like, "Do you want a fork on the table? You want a sheet in the bed?" That kinda thing.
Oh god, yeah. I've never heard of that, but I get it when you say it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, just
Nice.
there's so many little subtleties that can happen, from linguistic differences and, symbols all around. But
Yeah, language is really cool.
it sounds like a lot of fun, though. I mean, I think it would get exhausting at a certain point if you don't have, especially if you don't have the option, to speak English. Because I think I was very most people in Europe speak English or know someone who speaks English very quickly.
Right.
I
Right.
imagine in the bigger cities, like, I don't know, Bangkok, you could find someone who speaks English somewhat, but embedding yourself in it is also a fun challenge, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, and you're correct. The bigger cities across the world, you have a far grander probability of finding English speakers, of course. And what I like to do, I like to embed myself in the culture. So I never like to do tourist stuff. So, you won't find me at the Eiffel Tower or something like that.
Same.
I like to go in the middle of the culture where the people actually live and eat the street food and all that stuff. You gotta make sure you have a very good stomach though, that's for sure. And if you don't, then you can build yourself up. Not giving medical advice, of course, don't do this. But I had to do that and build myself up, and now I can eat all kinds of like stuff from really dirty looking street stalls, and I'm perfectly fine. But I love to do that, to go into the mix of the real of the people, not the stuff where it's tourism and then they cost 5x more and all that stuff. And that's where you really learn and get an idea of the people, the mindset, the culture, and the language, of course, because you can force yourself to speak that language or at least get used to it, even if it's really shittily spoken by you. At least you're trying, because in the tourist areas, they speak more English and they can bend to you more. But it's a
Yeah.
grander experience.
People appreciate it, when you at least show gratitude, that you're trying to speak in their language at all. Just something as simple as saying thank you, gracias, shukran, whatever, wherever you are, that goes a long way. Um, and it's frustrating, I think, for me in Northern Europe in general. People would like apologize to you for speaking their native language, and they realize that you don't speak it. They're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I should have just spoken English to him." Like, first of all, how could you have known? And secondly, like, I put myself in the perspective of, if you were in America and you didn't speak English, no one is gonna help you at all. They're just gonna tell you, "Learn English, go back to your country." And I don't wanna be the fact that you're apologizing to me for not speaking my native language while I'm in your country is hilarious. So, don't
Yeah.
worry about it. But, yeah. In
Yeah,
general,
you
though,
gotta have.
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, you gotta have an open mind. And what's more, the most prominent reason, in my opinion, in my experience, is with my work with teaching people to divorce from themselves forever, always divorce from yourself. I say for years that one of the best ways to get a new mindset, to break your own mindset, is travel. And you get exposed to different mindsets, different ways of thinking, different languages, obviously, and different ways of doing stuff. Having more patience, having less patience, whatever the hell it is, it doesn't matter, but it starts to break at your iceberg of a calcified mindset so you can start to slowly be more open to different ideas. And traveling is an excellent way to open the mind, rejuvenate, refresh, but also build a more powerful ideating mindset, a more powerful problem solving mindset. So it works in many ways.
So are you traveling to your clientele, or are you sort of just digital nomad online, like doing your? I almost used the word coach. I'm sorry. Doing your thing.
Damn it. It's both actually. So most of the time I'm called wherever. So I mean I can get a phone call right now during this interview saying, "Hey, Dr. Herman, come to France, Italy, whatever." That's most of the time. But most of my sorry, when I travel, that's most of the reasons that I travel. But my work in general is mostly online. So I'm digital nomad. I can work from anywhere. But when I travel, because my work is just, it's universal, I am extraordinarily lucky and fortunate that my work is called upon wherever I go. So I also teach at different universities across the world, and whenever I go to any country, I'm always getting contacted by whatever entity in that country saying, "Hey, Dr. Herman, we know you're here. Can you come and do a speech at this university? Can you come and help us solve this issue at this company? Can you help? Can you be on the board of this entrepreneur accelerator or incubator, whatever?" So because my work is across the world and across countries and even languages. I also do it when it's translated live, when I'm giving a workshop to whoever, and I have one translator, then I'm very lucky that it's I'm called in many places. So that to answer your question, sometimes it's when I just want to go somewhere and I'm like, I don't give a shit where I go. I know I always have work. But most of the time it is because I have some client or something calling me elsewhere.
Right. Did you when did you first become interested in metaphysics?
Oh, when I was 8. Mm,
All right.
the
That's so
story sorry?
I just it sounds like there's a story coming, that's all.
Yes, yes, there is. So when I was 8, like I said, I'm the definition of a nerd. I'm psychotic, and I do mean that word psychotic for knowledge. Nothing else is before knowledge for me. So when I was 8, and I wrote about this in I'm sorry, I didn't write about it. I was asked about it in, I think, 2 or 3 interviews that I spoke about it that are printed online. So when I was 8, I was, watching The Price is Right, the good one with Bob Barker, not the new shit, and, that's my opinion. And The Price is Right, and I remember I was 8 years old, and I was staying home from school. I don't know why, but I was laying down in the bed of my dad's bed, and I was alone in his bedroom. And Bob Barker said to the contestant at the end, the showcase showdown, when you spin the wheel to get to a dollar or close to a dollar without going over, and one person already won, but you usually get 2 spins, but the one person won with only 1 spin. The second spin wasn't needed. So the other contestants who lost went off the stage, but the host, Bob Barker, the old guy, he said, "Why don't you come over here and we'll spin again, see what you would have gotten." And when he said that, I'm 8 years old and I didn't study, quantum physics or systems theory or anything like that at that moment. But right away, I said to myself, that would not that doesn't prove anything. I said the fact of that person spinning that wheel now doesn't mean anything. We wouldn't know that they would have gotten that same number on the wheel because you have different variables that are now into play. Now that person would have taken X amount of steps differently than they would have taken if you didn't tell them to spin a second time just for the hell of it, because they would have concentrated in a different way. They would have stepped differently. They would have grabbed differently the wheel. They would have applied different pressure differently on the wheel. They would have had different body posture than they would have 1 minute ago or 10 minutes ago or whatever it was. So, and in systems theory, specifically in chaos theory, we have SDIC, sensitive dependence on initial conditions. It's just a fancy way of saying all tiny shit creates bigger trajectories. So every minute variable that is different, it creates a different trajectory. It's the same thing when you go to sniper school. When you are learning to be a sniper, tiny movements in your position equal grand movements in the trajectory. So if you have a target that let's say like 2 miles away and you move a hair to the right, of course, in your immediate space, it's just a hair to the right. But when the bullet comes out, it's going to be a far different hit than it was before you moved it. So that's how I got into all this stuff. And that led me into metaphysics, because metaphysics is from the Greek word. It's two sections, meta and physique. Meta meaning above or beyond, physics meaning pertaining to the physical world. So that got me into saying, okay, there's a science called metaphysics where you study all the weird stuff, all the unseen stuff, typically unseen anyway, that create this world. And that Bob Barker story is the first memory that I have about all of it.
That's wild that The Price is Right, of all things, set you on that journey. It just hit me the other day that, like, I think I saw a commercial or something for, Drew Carey on The Price is Right, and I thought about it, I'm like, "Yeah, I remember when Drew Carey was the new guy on this show." Like, "Holy cow, I'm getting
Yeah.
old, man."
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
You. I'm older than you. I do like Drew Carey, though. I will say that.
I loved, Whose Line Is It Anyway? I gotta give him that, but
Yes. Yeah. That was great with him. Now I don't even watch it with the other host.
yeah, I didn't even know that there was a new one. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
so little time for TV these days. I spend way more time reading or, hanging out with my son or something like that. It's keeping up with the Joneses is not for me, but
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know when the last time was when I owned a television. But I mean, partially is because I am just ridiculously nomadic, but it's always YouTube and Discovery Channel, and if I'm in a hotel, Netflix, or an Airbnb, Netflix with documentaries. I don't watch the dumb shit, reality stuff and everything. I don't care for that.
so from The Price is Right, setting you on that path to questioning the nature of reality, you go on what do you go to school right after you graduated high school or
No, no, actually, I've always been a nerd, but I was adamant against ever getting a degree. I really wanted to, because yeah,
spoiler, he changed
I
his
know
mind.
that sounds, yeah, I know that sounds weird. It's like, hey, doctor, you have 6 degrees. Yeah, I have 6 degrees. But before I got the degrees, I was like, I was adamant against it because I'm for the people. I know I'm a very blunt, forceful person, but it's not to be a dipshit or a piece of garbage. It's to extraordinarily help people as deep and as fast as possible. So I wanted to do whatever the hell I wanted to do and say, look, I did it without a degree. You guys can do it who are villagers and have no money, or people who single mothers, single fathers, and all that stuff. But I came upon in my travels and work, before I got any degree, I came upon some doctors. PhDs and MDs, but mostly PhDs and DBAs. And they said, okay, well, you can do that. That's fine. But it would probably be better if you get the accolades first. If you get the pedigree first, then you'll have more power in delivering your message. And I was really against that. I was like, no, man, then I'm like betraying, what I want to do and the people and stuff. I was really against it. But they convinced me because they deeply cared for me. We were extremely close. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'll just get the fucking associate's degree. And then I got the associate's degree, but it took me 11 years to get a 2-year degree because I kept moving around and stuff. So, but when I got the associate's degree, I'm like, I went back to my friends, the doctors, and I said, this is what I do. And they're like, well, at least get a master's degree, though. You really should get a doctorate. And I'm like, hell no, I'm not getting a damn doctorate. That's like 8 or 12 years. So I got the associates. I'm like, all right, I might just go for the stupid bachelor's. And then at that point, I said, all right, now I'm going to get everything. It was like if you saw the movie, oh shit, Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone. He
Mhm.
talks about. I love that movie, man. I've seen it so many goddamn times. When he talks near the end about how he turns his hat around and his hat is like a switch. And when he turns it back, he said, I feel like invincible, like a truck. So at that moment, it was just a switch that turned on me. I don't know where the hell it came from or what, but I was like, fuck this. I'm going to get all this shit right away. And bam, bam, bam. That's when I got all 6 degrees. I got the associates, 2 bachelors, 2 masters, and a doctor. And sometime, I hope, before I leave this planet, I'm going to get another doctorate. And yeah, that's where it all came about. And now I have extremely good pedigree. I'm very lucky, very fortunate, and I get more money, of course, but more importantly, I get more opportunity to profess my message to people of, you know, wake up. Don't be dumbasses glued to social media and distractions and stuff, but wake up to your potential and change the world. And people listen more.
What is a what was your thesis in? Just out of curiosity.
Well, so people confuse theses with dissertations. Theses are for masters, dissertations are for doctorates. You mean the master's theses?
Yeah, I mean both, obviously. We'll go in
Okay,
order if you
okay.
want.
Okay, all right. So my first master's is in linguistics. And I told you I like languages. And that was basically on the the language to build or destroy an empire. And it was basically on the um, phonology, which is the study of sound, phonemes,
Mm.
to be able to build people up or build an entity up. In this case, entity typically means person also, but in my case, I was referring to a legacy or an empire, corporation, whatever. So the way that you speak, the mannerisms, you can completely screw with people and reverse the entire language, saying love means hate and hate means love. And it works because it's based on the power behind those words. In this case, the sound, in this case, the phonemes, which is the scientific word for sound. So that was that. And then my other master's is in metaphysical psychology, or sorry, metaphysical science. And that was basically the same thing, but from the point of the books that are already out there that profess the same thing, but using different language. So um, you have Bob Proctor, the old guy that died, I want to say 10 years ago. He was in the movie The Secret, the guy with the pure white hair. Tony Robbins, you have uh, uh, Dr. Joe Dispenza, all these high gurus that profess the same message. They're just using different language. So I was basically going in and saying, hey, the words don't matter. It's go deeper, go deeper. It's the universal algorithm, foundation, concept, rule, whatever you want to call it, like we spoke of at the beginning of this conversation. You have
Right.
to dig deep. So those were the two theses. And then the dissertation for the doctorate in metaphysical psychology, that was basically the same thing, but expanded upon in a huge way on destroying or building an empire or legacy. Just much more metaphysical nomenclature, obviously, but metaphysical principles and concepts that are backed by so-called mainstream science.
Yeah, I would posit that many great empires do seem to have advantage. We have this idea, right, that well, we just speak English because well, England was in a lot of places, and then it's an easy language to learn or something like that. But I think it's more like England was able to do what they were to do largely because of their language, and the same thing applies to Rome, for instance. Like Latin being their language of choice was a language that, unlike English, is much easier to learn. Like it's pretty adaptable, and their
Right.
ability to communicate complex ideas efficiently makes for a society that functions in a way that's reflective of the language that they speak and the way that they understand things and their ability to communicate quickly. So, for instance, if you go to South Korea, right, and you have all these, their army is basically embedded with our army. So all of their soldiers get basically attached to someone in the American army for their duration of their stay,
Okay.
and their pilots
Okay.
pilots have to speak in English while they're on duty because their language is structured in such a way that there's all of these courtesies you have to give subordination to your higher ranking people and all this kind of stuff. And in English, that doesn't exist in the same way. So it's inefficient. Like it's impossible to get anything done if you have to, you know, communicate to that person in the Korean language with the Korean customs. Like, you can't get
Yeah.
anything done, and if it's like the plane's on fire, we don't have time for you to say all that stuff. Just speak English,
Yeah.
get it out quickly, efficiently, easy to understand. The words need to mean exactly what they mean. But this is
Mm,
also why, I mean, if you have a book that's written in English and you translate the exact same book word for word into Spanish, the Spanish book is dramatically longer because it takes more syllables to express the same idea. Takes in many
yeah.
cases more words. There may not be a single word that means I'm just throwing stuff out there, but in English, we just have the word equilibrium. In another language, you may have to say 6 words to describe
Right.
1 word.
Right.
Um, I'm just curious, what did you learn from talking about and studying empires?
I want to give like three long answers to that question, but I won't.
Oh, absolutely.
There are so I'll answer your question, your immediate question. I agree that English is more concise. It's not the most concise, but it is extraordinarily concise. And everything you said, I agree with.
It was gonna be English or German, and we won that war, so
Yeah. Yeah. And with that's one reason why I don't study a lot of languages that I really want to study. So I speak three languages. I speak English, obviously. I speak Hindi, the Indian language, Hindi. And if you speak Hindi, by default, by de facto, you speak Urdu, because Hindi and Urdu are like 85% similar, maybe 90%. The big difference is the script. Hindi uses the Devanagari script, which is what everyone can envision when they think of Hindi language. But Urdu, spoken in Pakistan, uses Arabic script. It's the same crap for the most part,
right.
but Urdu is actually considered the more posh language when you talk about Hindi versus Urdu. Urdu is more, upper class, supposed. Uh, so I don't. So I only speak English, Hindi, and Urdu, and Russian was the first language I studied at 12 years old. I taught myself. I could still read and write everything, but my vocabulary is probably only like 200 words, maybe 300 if I really think about it. So I could just do basic conversation now. But I would love to study more languages, but I don't study a lot of languages because to me, I'm ridiculously into systems with my work. Universal systems, holistic systems, chaos systems, general systems. So I hate languages where, like you just said, in order to say one goddamn word in English, you gotta say 6 words. And Italian, I really wanna study Italian for years so badly, but I refuse to do it because, you know, in order for you to say something, just like you made up equilibrium, I'm just gonna make up something here. So in order for you to say gray elephant, you have to say elephant of the gray of Saint Santa de Domingo and all that stuff. It's like, Jesus Christ, I'm not gonna do that. And I'm not slamming the language. If you think so, you're an idiot. I'm not doing that. I'm just giving an example. But that's why I don't study that. There's another language that's I'm trying to remember right now. There are many languages like that. So yeah, English is concise. And then regarding the first part of your question, when you first started, about the control and the ease of conquering or creating an empire, is language. That's a huge part. And just like you rightly said, England, or rather Britain, there's a phrase that said the sun never went down on the British Empire, and the British Empire was the biggest empire in all of history. So one of the ways that you accomplish that is to stifle people if you see another language up and coming, because people are unified by language. So if you want to be a piece of crap and keep people down, you better stifle their language, because if you unify people and you allow that language to get more ubiquitous, more spread out, or unifying different people across the world, there's a good chance that you'll have some type of trouble down the line. Not trouble, but trouble for you if you're going to try to, keep people under your tight reign of English. So,
Sure. Not
yeah,
only
that's
from their
why.
sense of nationality, but also their ability to
Yes,
communicate such that you can't understand what they're saying. So, it
exactly,
takes, like,
exactly. And
2 generations to erase that.
yes, exactly, and I really like how you came in right now and said their sense of a nationality. That is one of the reasons why they stifled the language of the Indians. You had to assimilate into English. That's one of the reasons why they stifle the language of any entity that has a language that is not of the ruling party. So whether you like it or not, it is what it is. That's how the world works. It shouldn't be, but it is, and that's one way you create and perpetuate or destroy an empire, is via language.
Um, and it brings I can't remember his name, but the Viking who sort of named Normandy, he had come in and conquered part of France, and then he
Yeah.
made a treaty like, "I'm cool, we're cool." And the French were like,
Yeah.
"Well, if you're gonna live here, you gotta rule as the lord of that area, and you've gotta be
Yeah.
Christian." And he was like, no. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna I'm gonna keep on worshiping Thor and Loki and Odin. But,
Yeah.
we could otherwise, we're cool. And then all they had to do was basically just, "Alright, well, that's fine, you can do that, but it'd be cool if you could send your son to us in Paris so that we can educate him,
Right.
to be French." And then his son becomes a Christian and speaks French, and
Yeah.
then there's no more Viking s no more true, I should say, I don't even know what the proper word is anymore, heathen?
Yeah.
Nordic?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that was
I
gone.
understand.
2 generations later, it didn't exist.
Yeah. I could be wrong, but my opinion is I'm pretty damn sure those people who invited the son over knew what the hell they were going to do and knew
Oh,
what
for
would
sure.
be the outcome. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
what is
language is very powerful.
the line in, Braveheart where they're like, "Well, if we can't kill them, breed them out." That's
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure. I mean, that was the way the British Empire thought, and they were not the first people to have that thought. Genghis Khan knew that. Lots of people knew that. It's terrible to say it in such harsh terms, but that is quite literally how it happens.
Yeah, it is what it is. If you want to use baby terms or direct terms, it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the world is. I'll be careful what I say here, but The world is a disgusting place, and there's a lot of evil truths that rule this planet.
Yeah, no doubt. Anybody who's been a cop, EMT, military, traveled to a third world country could put two and two together on that. But I think at least
Yes.
we we Americans who have not traveled outside of the country, who don't also live in like South Side Chicago or something like that, don't
Yeah.
necessarily grasp that. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
that goes back to what we were saying earlier about like, well, am I mad at you because you don't know this, or should I tell you? Would you even understand if I told you? If I try to explain that, that's the hardest part. I think is like when you want someone to know the truth, whatever that happens to be, and then you just have to kind of accept that like they ain't coming over here. They're over there.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I sometimes I jokingly say, well, I'm only half jokingly, unfortunately, that I'm also a farmer. Actually, I think I wrote this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I wrote this in my one of my books. I just released my 12th book last month. I don't know. I think it was number 11 or something like that. And I wrote that I'm a very forceful person, and I accomplish this, and I create change agents across the world. But also the other thing that I do is being a farmer, and you just gotta plant the seed sometimes. Sometimes people are just either they're too stupid, and I don't say that necessarily as an insult. Sometimes I mean it, but not in this case. They're just too stupid to get concepts. So you just lay down the truth, lay down the seed, and hope they get it later. And the other time is that when you're planting the seed, but you know that they're just forcibly holding on to something that they really don't believe, but
mhm,
they're going to believe it anyway because it's their comfort zone. So you have no choice. You will never win against stupidity. Stupidity will forever win against intelligence. So you just, plant the seed, as you said, and hopefully they come around sometime.
sure. Yeah, but ignorance is bliss. Sometimes I'm jealous. Sometimes I wish I could like just
Yeah.
kind of go back to that very limited point of view because it's like you don't have as many things to worry about. There's that old
Yeah.
like idea, like the kind of the I think literally this is out of the Havamal. Like Odin says, like too much wisdom is bad because once you become, when you have the gift of, he uses some
Yeah.
other word that we don't understand anymore, but he's using words that get translated into like this idea that wisdom is sort of clairvoyance. Like being able to tell the
Yeah.
future is because you have seen
Yeah.
patterns and you can extrapolate.
Right.
And if you don't see those patterns, you're not wise, you don't worry
Yeah.
as much. And it's like a foolish man, knows too many things and stays up all night worrying about them. And a happy person, they go to bed at night, close their eyes,
Yeah.
not thinking about what's going on the other side of the earth, not thinking about, oh my goodness, is this life even real? Am I gonna wake up tomorrow? All that
Right.
stuff. Yeah. A lot of anxiety
Yeah.
involved in knowing things.
Unfortunately, you're correct. I wish I could argue with you, but my colleagues and I have said for years, we wish we, just like you said, sometimes we wish we were dumb. We wish the truth was not the truth. And I think it's a poem, if I remember correctly. One of my friends, who's a very famous media person in a very obscure religion, and the poem that he reads says something like, the truth of this universe is horror, but with that horror comes hope. So when you learn, in my opinion, in my spirituality, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And in my spiritual journey and truth, what I feel is the absolute truth. When you first come upon the truth of this universe, of this existence, it is, man, you almost want to goddamn cry, and I really mean that. I'm not exaggerating. It is so fucking scary and screwed up. It's a goddamn horror movie, and I wish I was joking. But when you get over that initial disgusting shock, then you can start to think and be like, okay, well, we know that now, but there's hope if we do things this way. And it's true. Sometimes you wish you didn't know things.
You ever read the book Fight Club? Chuck Palahniuk?
No, no, I saw the movie. I couldn't stand it, but I do like the concept, especially the psychological concept, because I love psychology. But
Right.
please continue. Go ahead.
No, there's the line. It's also in the movie where Tyler, or I should say, Tyler is speaking to the narrator, who, spoiler alert, they're the
Got
same
it.
guy. Uh,
Yeah, I know.
yeah, and he's saying like, okay, what if you know how like your dad didn't like you and he ran off on you and your mom? What if God did the same thing? What if it did create the universe, but he doesn't doesn't like you, doesn't care about you, like he just left,
Mm,
and now we're
mm,
down here. And I'm not saying that's the truth by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, it's
got it.
that book does so many great ways of trying to like explore those metaphors of why people feel so lost and why is the world so ugly and why why do I make all these
Yeah,
terrible decisions and all that kind of stuff. And as you said, the more you dig into it, the more it doesn't. It's like the more it doesn't make sense. The more it does make sense, the more it doesn't make sense. It's like this infinite paradox. And then the Hermetic philosophers would say, like, of course, there has to be a paradox. So everything is polar, and then also they're part of the same thing. So every paradox does
right.
have a solution, and the solution is why not both things? Why does it have to be one or
Correct.
the other?
Yeah,
And in Kabbalah, it's what is it? The column of the center column, not extreme, not emotion, not intuition, not
right.
like not strictly logic, in between, balance, yin and
Correct.
yang
I
in
would
Eastern
agree.
philosophy, and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. But it's I have a lot of people on the show who have opinions, but since you have a degree to philosophize on such things, what do you reckon is the nature of reality?
Well, I usually don't go into this, but since you directly asked me, let me first discern your question. I won't reveal anything if I don't have to. So you asked the question, what's the nature of reality? You're just talking about in general. You're not talking about anything regarding spirituality and end game, correct?
I would like to know the answer to all of those questions, or at least
God
your
damn it. I
professional
shouldn't have
opinion.
said that.
I'm sure the people listening would like to know what you think about it. Um, don't worry. There lots of people have different opinions and have come on here and said different things, and I'm open to whatever you may think. And if I disagree with you, then I'll just go on being ignorant.
No, no, maybe I'm ignorant. You don't know
Yeah,
that. No, and I only said, God damn it, not to like, oh, I'm gonna reveal something. I don't give a shit. But it's just that it's heavy stuff. So, okay, so the nature of reality. So I've been, not that I know everything and I'm completely correct. Of course, I think I'm correct for my path, for my spiritual path. I may die and be completely wrong. We don't know that. We won't know that until we die for certain. So, with that preface, in my experience and research of over 40 years in metaphysics and religion and a lot of other crap and science.
you're listening to KEEP in the Keep. If you love this show and you love supporting indie video games, please take a moment to check out In the Keep's upcoming Stellar Valkyrie. Built in the GZ Doom engine, this retro first-person shooter puts you in the universe of space bird bounty hunter Falco, who is on a mission to save his ex-girlfriend from the evil Black Star cult. Just type birdgame.space, that's BIRD game.space into your browser. Hit enter, smash the wishlist button, and stay tuned.
Reality is nothing whatsoever except mind. It is nothing except whatever the hell you want to call it, frequency, energy, manifestation that is begat by mind. And that's just not something I believe. If you study history's greatest thinkers, including Nobel laureates who may not have been classified as greatest thinkers, but they are Nobel laureates, a lot of them say the same thing. Actually, Einstein, I'm trying to remember the quote. He said something like, the field is the governing entity of all matter. And when you study Max Planck, when you study Nikola Tesla, Erwin Schrödinger, all these ridiculous minds, also the ancient Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, everyone always says the same shit, including Jesus. Everything is derived from mind. Spirit, soul is a part of mind, but it's all mind. So
You know what's
to
fun
answer
about
your
having
question,
audience
yeah.
is that they're not gonna ask you to cite any of those quotes except for Jesus. They're gonna wanna know
Oh God.
scripture and verse, where did you say that? But you don't have to, we it's
Okay.
kind of
Well, thank you. I will say this. So I'm a Gnostic.
yeah.
Sorry.
So for what it's worth, I agree with you, but
Oh, thank you, thank you. So I'm a Gnostic. So when you look at the Gnostic teachings, it is very easy to find that in the Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. But if you're not Gnostic and you say, "Oh, Gnostics are a bunch of idiots," that's okay. You can say that. But also, when you look at the message, not the words, but the underlying message in linguistics is called pragmatics. Discourse analysis also is a part of it too. You're studying the meaning behind what people say. What do they really mean, and why the hell did they say it this way? So the core message was that everything is within you. All the power is within you. The kingdom is within you. I'm not a Christian. I'm a Gnostic. They're quite different. But yeah, so sorry, I'm going back to where I was continuing here. So Jesus said that, and the Nobel laureates, the greatest thinkers, they say the same thing. The sages, the wise men across history, across countries and cultures, they say the same crap. And eventually, when you're a policeman and you're questioning 20 people for a murder or whatever crime, doesn't matter what it is, you're questioning 20 people, at some point, when you realize 19 of those people are saying the same shit, just with different words, maybe even different languages, you better fucking look into the same message that they're spouting, the core of what they're spouting. The core of what they're spouting is, in my example here, it was done by a white guy who was blonde, who was between 5'6" and 6 feet, fat, he had a peg leg, whatever. But the core behind all their semantics, all their nomenclature, all their language is that. And the core, when you study history's greatest thinkers and religious thinkers, such as Jesus and Buddha, the same message comes about again and again from people who are divorced across millennia, across space and time. So that is a very powerful neutral variable that says this is probably true. So that's my answer.
you said earlier you had a brother in your lodge who was Scottish. Can you say what lodge this is?
I'm a Freemason.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're speak you're saying a lot of things that I'm like, I think I know
Yeah.
if there's guys coming. Okay, cool. Well, um,
End the interview now.
now we can really talk. Like, turn on your
Yeah.
camera so I can see your secret handshake or whatever. No. Um, no, I've been I've been doing the, you know, classes, like, recently on, Ledbetter and Blavatsky and, W.B. Yeats and
Yeah.
Crowley and all the wonderful Victorian folks who, had for the first time ever, these great revelations. I broke open the Kabbalion last night, but my son didn't want me to read it. He wanted me to spend time with him. Um, but yeah, like as you said, so many different people, so many different backgrounds, so many different times in history. Sometimes through passing that language, and I mean not the language that they speak, but I mean the idea behind them down generation to generation, culture to culture across time, and some of it through independent revelation, arriving at the same core sets of truths, which is that uh, none of this shit matters. It's all in Buddha's word, it's an illusion. What you're
Right.
doing here is nothing compared to what you're doing above this. Yeah, and
Oh, yeah.
the Theosophists had the 7-tiered thing, but I mean, whatever
Right.
perspective you want to look at it from. I look at it nowadays because I'm a game designer. I'm always thinking about like, okay, we're kind of creating our own little universe in this computer.
Right. Right.
What is the experience of that thing? Of course, it's not conscious, but of course, maybe the thing that's making my simulation doesn't think I'm conscious. Maybe my consciousness is just part of a greater consciousness, and maybe the consciousness that this character in my computer game is experiencing is also part of my consciousness because it's all connected. Maybe we have the pyramid upside down, and consciousness is actually the foundation of reality, and everything else sits upon that, and that's God.
Right.
But you know, it's it's like we live in at least in Western society. Nobody wants to hear that shit. I guess a lot of people do want to hear it, but it gets shut down. It gets called things like, "Oh, those Gnostic Christians were just this weird esoteric cult, and they didn't know where they were getting their information from, and it's probably all hogwash
Right.
anyway." I have
Of course.
Elaine Pagel's book right next to me, like on my
Oh,
bookshelf.
okay. Dr. Lane. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a really bright young lady.
Yeah.
I really, really, really like her scholarly work anyway. I don't know if I necessarily like agree with her personal conclusions, but that doesn't matter. The research is amazing. The stuff that she did with the Nag Hammadi scriptures, talking about you mentioned Gospel of Thomas. That one is particularly interesting. Some of the things that get brought up, and then you ask yourself like these historical questions of why isn't that in there, but Matthew is, John is, and who really wrote the book of John?
Right.
Was it? Yeah. There's a TV show now called The Chosen. It's a really great TV show, but it's the story of Jesus of Nazareth and his disciples.
Oh,
I think that the guy who's making it, or at least some of the writers, are devoutly Catholic. And so John, the apostle, is writing the book of John while Jesus is alive. And I have questions about that. Also,
yeah.
Matthew, writing down the story of the book of Matthew while Jesus is alive.
Like
I don't
alive.
know the real
Yeah.
truth to
That
that.
day.
No, no, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know about
Yeah.
that, but still a good TV show. It's fun and to
That does sound
explore
really
those.
cool. And thank you for saying that. I'm definitely going to look that up.
Yeah, it's a good show for real. I mean, even if you don't care about religion at all, it's like the drama. It's a great story. It's why it's a popular story because people like it. But and they tell it well. They don't really like, aside from some of the creative choices they make. It's not like pushing anything on you to see it. It's just presenting that this is according to the book we have. This is a story more or less as it happens, and I think it's nice for people to not have to read the Bible because you have all of
Right.
these different stories told out of order, and to have it presented to you in a linear fashion. I think a lot of people can really benefit from just, okay, that's the story. Now I understand.
Agreed.
First this
Agreed.
happened, then that. Jefferson did that
Yeah.
too. He had his own Jefferson's Bible, I think is what he called it, but it's like the life of Jesus, but he spliced it all out so that it was in order as he understood it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's also the Action Bible, which is the comic book version, but it's also linear. It's like, great, perfect. That's how you tell a story. Thank you.
Understood.
Mm.
Yeah. If you, I've said for years, and I still say this, I don't give a shit for Christianity or Islam or Zoroastrianism. I care for truth. And I've been all kinds of different religions, Baptist and Catholic and other stuff I won't go into, pagan and everything. But I just search for truth. And if I wake up tomorrow and find out Islam is right, I'll go with that. I don't give a shit what it is. I just want to know truth. And I'm saying that because of what you just said. If you, when you were talking about the different Bibles and the Chosen TV show,
Mhm.
if you go into any search, you have to go in with a completely neutral mindset, whether you're seeking something in science or you're seeking the truth of what your life calling should be or religion, whatever. So that is where you will find the only truth because you're not biased, you're not swayed by anything. And in my entire journey for over 40 years of studying, I've always been beneficial to have that mindset, and that is the only mindset you should forever have if you are serious about studying something and finding out truth and then going from there.
Yeah. No, I grew up in the South, right? People were very set in their ways, a particular
Yeah,
version of Christianity, and,
yeah,
and we went to, different churches too, even just amongst Protestant Christians, wild variation in what they actually think, what they talk about,
yeah,
how they live their
yeah,
lives, and I put 2 and 2 together pretty quickly. I'm like, "Alright, somebody here either doesn't know what they're talking about or all of you have a piece of the puzzle that and you need to be talking to each other." And I get to give credit. I was at a I was really young when this happened, but it was like a church program where it was a Baptist church, but they were doing like a series throughout the month where they were inviting different pastors to come in and give a sermon and kind of explain what their background is, just out of, Christian unity or whatever. And that really opened my mind because I'm like listening to a Catholic priest talk, I'm listening to a Methodist guy talk, I'm listening to I don't know, Episcopalian, whatever. And, there's like, okay, where all of the lines intersect seems to be where we should be paying attention to. Where you guys disagree doesn't really matter to me. But,
yeah,
and then extrapolating that out to other things, I knew what a Muslim was, but I didn't really know any Muslims until I joined the Air Force and moved away from Alabama and got out and saw the world a bit. And then Buddhists, Hindu, etc. is like the more I opened my mind up and like started just like hearing people out. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? There are
yeah,
core truths that overlap to all of these things, and the differences don't seem to be all that big of a difference. But
yeah.
you disagree on how people should dress or what you should eat or whatever. I'm like, but that doesn't tell me anything about the nature of how we got here and why. That's the question I have.
Yeah, it's, you know, how do I say this? When some of my colleagues in management across Fortune 100, including consultants who consult to Fortune 100, which includes myself, we said years ago that management is nothing but common sense. And it really is. Now, the issue is that most people don't have that common sense, so they don't see management. And what am I saying more specifically? If you sit down and you look at what should be done in any atmosphere, I don't care what it is, what industry, what language it's being done in, I don't give a shit. If you sit down and think for 1 minute or 1 hour with yourself or with colleagues who are at your level of management or higher, even better, when you come across the solution, it is always the most powerful solution, not superficial solution. It is
Mhm,
always going to be common sense. It is always going to be, okay, well, there's a high turnover rate. What's the lowest common denominator of that issue? We got to keep our people happy. No shit. But you're at least going somewhere. Okay, how do we keep them happy? This, and this. These people like this. These people like this. Okay, how do we do that? How do we do it where all of them are happy, and not only 10%, the Hindus are happy or the Christians are happy. So what I'm saying is it's so stupid how the stupidity of people across space and time. And this goes back to my Price is Right story. I was so baffled. I was ridiculously baffled at the stupidity of humans. And I was fucking 8 years old. What 8-year-old should think of this stuff? I'm not saying that to be an idiot, be like, oh, I was so smart. I was like, no, this shouldn't occur. The stupidity of people saying, oh, yeah, let's spin this wheel again. That'll be exactly what would have happened. Maybe someone will say, okay, Dr. Herman, that's a little bit complex. Most people won't know that. It doesn't matter. It alludes to the message of the grander stupidity of people. People don't think properly. They don't think things through. They don't think about management where it's really common sense. And this all ties into what you just said before I started speaking here. The universality, the single most powerful thing where all the lines intersect, to use your words that you just said, is the same thing as every instance of management, every instance of marketing, of even neuromarketing. You want to hone in on the grandest target, the grandest demographic possible to affect the most people, unless you're a niche. But then you want to be hone in on the grandest niche possible. So if you take a look at Venn diagrams, and this is for any audience member that doesn't know this, I imagine you do. Imagine if you have 3 circles and you have one circle, this circle is yellow, another circle is blue, another circle is red. So those 3 circles, some point typically in the middle of the circles, there's an intersection. So between the green, what the hell did I just say? Between green and blue, or whatever color I said, blue and red, it creates purple. Okay, but blue, red, and purple creates a lighter purple. I don't know what color it creates. Okay, just go with me on this. So, so you always want to focus in on the point where those 3 sections intersect, and that is where you want to do the most power of whatever strategy you're doing. That same concept is the same thing as what you just said, where all the lines intersect. Forget where we disagree, where the 3 circles do not intersect, or the 2 circles intersect, but not with the third one. Those don't matter as much in this case. In other instances, they'll matter and we care, but not in this case. So if you look at the concepts of Venn diagrams, of Six Sigma, of chaos theory, of studying religions, of crime solving, like I said, well, these 19 people said it's a white guy with blonde hair, so we should probably listen to the 19 people instead of the one guy that's saying, oh no, it was a black guy. You have to hone in on the universalities, the same single core messages. Like you asked me about the truth of the world, of material. It's all about energy. It's all these about mind. It's all what Jesus said, what Gandhi said, what the Buddha said, what all these ancient sages. So it's the same thing. And if you just study this, whatever the hell you want to call it, this concept of common sense, looking at Venn diagrams, looking at how cops do shit, looking at how singers sing, looking at where intersections are, all these things, it's the same algorithm that's applied in different arena of life. And if people do this for designing games, for computer coding, computer programming, excuse me, for studying truth, it's the same rules, just applied differently. And you'll go far further than you ever could. And that's exactly how history's greatest thinkers teach or saw things.
Couldn't agree more. I was like browsing through your book library and some of the stuff that you write about and everything, and I wanted to know like what your understanding of and your thoughts on the tarot are.
Oh, wow. Do you have 5 hours? You
we
just
can we
said
can come
only
back and
20 or
schedule
30
a
minutes.
5 hour. We'll do the teaser now for 20 or 30 minutes, and then we'll do a full tarot episode some other time.
There we go, there we go. So I am a doctor of metaphysical psychology. I am a metaphysician and a scholar. I am in, regular academia, so I'm not like a, how do you say, a hippie, no credentials sort of person. So, however, I do use tarot heavily, but I call it psychological tarot. But please understand, I say this with respect. I do not believe in tarot. I do not believe it has divination or propheticism behind it. That's just my opinion. So I use it heavily as a psychological tool. In my experience of teaching people to completely destroy their mindset, and I mean completely beat the shit out of it and put in a brand new thinking and seeing ability, cognitive schema, the psychological term, thinking foundation. The tarot is the most artistic, creative, fun, engaging, and beautiful tool I have ever studied and used. And I've studied tarot for over 40 years. So I used to believe in it. I used to do it to a small extent. I barely believed in it, but I did it more so for entertainment. So I use it as a psychological tool in many ways. As a matter of fact, my one of my books, I think it was my sixth or seventh book, is called something like Psychological Tarot Activity Book. And it's got a lot of activities on how to use the tarot purely as a psychological tool, non-clinical, because I'm not a clinical doctor. Nothing I ever say is medical device. Don't interpret it as such. All that legal crap, I gotta say. So, but tarot is beautiful because you can use it as a Rorschach test. Dr. Herman Rorschach created the Rorschach test. Remember, that's that ink blot test that most people have seen in movies or real life.
Also,
So
my
you can
favorite
hold up.
character in the Watchmen comic books.
Oh, really?
Ro
Nice.
Rorschach.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I did not see that. I don't know that series. But yeah, it's a beautiful tool and it really helps people quickly find biases, prejudices, weaknesses, and strengths in their own characters and in situations in any atmosphere.
I, uh, I think of the tarot as a language, and I approach it as such, where it's whatever metaphysical ideas people wanted to subscribe to with regard to it, like whether or not it's divination or it's I don't know. Some people would say that it's like the language of ancient Egypt or something. I'm not even gonna posit that, but it is a language and it is a group of symbols that are very easily understood by anyone pretty much no matter what language they're from. And that also depends on the art on the card too. You know, there are ones that are kind of localized to certain point of view and all that stuff. But yeah, tell me about how it plays into psychology. How do you think about that?
Sure. So you said a beautiful commercial right now for the tarot. I mean, it is a language, it is symbolism. It is a great case for symbology, semiotics, semiology, depending on the school of thought. And there's one guy, actually a PhD in psychology, and Dr. Art Rosengarten, and he and I were on the media show of my friend Miguel Conner,
Mhm.
who's the religious media personality that I just mentioned not too long ago, very famous guy. So he's a Gnostic, and his show is Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. He actually just released a book, I want to say 1 or 2 months ago, on the occult Elvis. Elvis was hugely into the occult, and most
Yes.
people never know that. Yeah, yeah, he was huge into it. So the book came out like 1, 2 months ago, and the Dr. Art Rosengarten, a PhD in psychology, and I were on Miguel's show. I've been on Miguel's show like 7, 9 times, something like that. And I really respect Dr. Art Rosengarten. I think he's like, well, he's going to be angry at me if I don't know, but I think he's like 70 years old, 65, something like that. He's in California and he's an actual clinician. So I'm a psychological doctor, metaphysical psychology, but he's a clinician and he uses tarot and he does believe in tarot for his clients and he could legally do that. And he's the only one, he was either the first one to do a dissertation that is academically accepted in the academic world, the typical world, whatever you want to call it, of academia on tarot for psychology. He was the first one. I think he's still the only one. And we did a great show. So if you want to learn more about it, you can listen to that. And to answer your question further, the latter point, I mean, it's just like anything. Any tool, you can make up your own drills. You can make up your own exercises. You can take a fork and use it to comb your hair. You can use it to kill bugs. You can use it to as a shoehorn. Any tool, you can always use more than one area. So the tarot, not using it as a prophetic tool or divination. One way that I like to use it is a very common psychological tool. Um, Basically, it's called TAT, TAT, thematic apperception test. It's a basic fancy way of saying storyboarding. So I'm going to hold up a tarot card to you and I say, okay, here's the tarot. This is the present tense. So you tell me what happened to lead up to this situation. So I'm showing you, let's say, the devil card. So devils, every tarot is different, of course. So the devil is eating some human in the card and it's got fire here. So what happened to lead up to this card, this atmosphere that's created in this card. So you tell me. Then I say, okay, so what do you think is going to happen after this present tense, in the future tense, tomorrow or the next second or the next 20 years? So you tell me the story after that card. And then you tell me the story during the present tense so you can switch it around. And what you're doing is you're getting people to immediately divorce because they have to stop their autocognition, be like, okay, what the hell's going on? What is this tarot shit? Why is he asking me this crap? And you have to create a story. You have to stop and say, okay, well, this color represents this. The devil isn't really the devil. It represents this. Or maybe the devil is the devil. Whatever. It's preferential. There's almost no wrong answer. So now you say, okay, now how do you apply that in how you select people if you're a manager at a company and you need to create a project team and you have 10 candidates who are already employees, but you have to take 3 of those candidates to go on your project team? How would you select them? And how does your TAT answer, thematic apperception test, reveal how you would see candidate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and why did you pick candidate 3, 4, and 5, and why didn't you pick candidate 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? So it goes very deep. They're very long answers, extremely complicated process. But if the person knows what they're doing, in this case, me, or someone like me, they do it in a way it's very complex material. However, the person undergoing such understands immediately, very quickly, very easily, and can walk away and apply those things from day one very easily. So it's the same thing that is said by, it's attributed to Einstein. If you can't explain something simply, you do not fully understand it. And that's completely true. It is also said by many other people. So, excuse me, if you're able to know these things, these this Rorschach test, the ways of using the tarot in a non-divinatory or prophetic way, tarot is ridiculously powerful if you just use that tool. It's based on the archetypes, like Dr. Carl Jung in psychotherapy, the archetypes of the lover, the fool, the king. They don't represent a fool, a lover, or 2 lovers, excuse me, and a king. They represent the idea, the theme, the concept of those stages in a human's life. So it is really powerful and very easy to do. Even if you're against tarot, you can still use it for your betterment. Unless you say
Yeah.
it's going to bring you to hell, then don't do it.
Yeah, no, I've definitely had, those are ways to open up the gateway to hell or let demons into your life thing. Same thing with,
Yeah,
Ouija boards, any kind of
yeah,
mediumship, anything associated with a medium, in the American Southeast at least. But
yeah.
no, I'm with you on, and as I said earlier, I just think of it as like this is a really useful language. This is a really good way of like parsing out what the overall idea you're having is. So, I mean, you sit anyone down to, "I'm gonna tell you your fortune." All right? You could there's all these, concepts. People are like, "Oh, you have to do the Celtic cross, or you do the five-pointed pentagram, or some," what, it doesn't matter. And then just make up a story. And then the person is just going to kind of, like, make sense of it however they like, "What does that mean? Well, now that you brought up the devil, and, and I know that doesn't really mean the devil, it's just that there's a lie. Well, my husband recently, I found out he was cheating on me." I'm like, "Yes. How do you feel about that?" "Well, I don't really know." Well, what about the Wheel of Fortune? How does that make you feel?" And just keep going through that conversation. And I'm with you. I don't necessarily even dismiss the idea that there is something divine attached to that process. I just wouldn't say that I don't think the cards that I bought from Barnes& and Noble or something are magic.
Yeah.
Ended up in so.
Yeah. No, no, the Barnes& and Noble ones are real.
Right, right. Only the Barnes& and Noble. In fact, this show is sponsored by I'm just like, we're not sponsored by
Yeah.
Barnes& and Noble, but if they are interested, I would be happy to do that. Um,
Yes.
Now, what do you think of, well, I got to kinda come up with a way to phrase the question here. When when someone is having, like, a revelatory moment in their life, some maybe you would attach that to, "Oh, I'm 27 years old, and now I'm kinda going through that quarter life crisis, and it's the return of Saturn," or the 27 Club, or whatever that is. What are these synchronicities, these coincidences, as some people prefer to call them, that these patterns that we notice that seem to be kinda like a video game almost that we're living in, if I could posit to use that metaphor?
Forgive me, I heard everything you said, but I don't fully understand the question you're asking, to be precise.
No, no, no worries. I'll try to rephrase it. I struggled there to even formulate a question of the idea I was having. But,
Well, no, you have to go with me because 'cause I'm pretty dumb, so no.
no, you're definitely not dumb. But synchronicities in life, patterns in life, things that we notice, the Mandela effect,
Yeah, yeah.
stuff that was there and isn't there, or stuff that seems to be a universal pattern or truth that everyone goes through or notices, or I don't know, today I was sad and I was walking down the street, and right at the moment that I said, like, "Oh God, please give me a sign," a beautiful white dove flew right in front of me and landed on my fingertips and sang me a song. Those types of things
Mm,
happen. A miracle, someone, a woman being able to miraculously lift a
right.
car that you couldn't possibly do. What
Yes.
what is the explanation of these things in reality?
Well, I would first caution anybody looking into this because the mind is very powerful and humans are just so goddamn stupid. So let me give you an example here. There's a concept in psychology where if someone learns the definition, learns a new word for them, a lot of times they'll say something like, "Oh, I noticed now since I learned that word, I hear it all the time, or I hear it many times."
Yeah.
That almost is never the case. What happened was
Everyone has the
most
same color and
likely
model car as I do. Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
yeah. The word was spoken in your circles already. It's just that you came upon that word, so you can now recognize that word, just as you said with the cars. This color, this model, whatever. So it is really tricky, extraordinarily tricky to divorce the whatever you wanna call it, reality of synchronicities and meaningful synchronicities, perhaps I should say, versus you getting more intelligent and getting out of your dipshitteriness of, well, the word was already spoken around you 20 times, dumbass, on Tuesday. You just picked up upon it. So that's the first caution I would say, that you have to be ridiculously careful that you're really working with science here.
Sure, but
So
why did
to
I learn
further,
that word on that day? Why was
well,
it
that's
exactly
another.
that moment on that day is when that word finally
Yeah,
clicked with
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah, I
So
understand, I got it, I got it. That is another conversation, then now you're getting into more philosophical arena, and that will never be answerable. It's a cyclical argument. You can forever say, "Well, because it was meant to be done, because I was then meant to be understanding that word that day going forward, so I can hear the 20 instances that occurred not last Thursday because I didn't know that word in the example I just gave, but
mm,
the 20 examples that occurred yesterday or something like that. And I can always come to you and say, well, it's just happenstance. You just luck. You just happen to learn it. There's nothing esoteric. There's nothing prophetic about it or anything like that. That you will never be able to answer until we're dead. And then we have the answer and we say, oh crap, it really was, divine intervention or something like that to learn the word candy bar on a Thursday at 4:05 p.m. So yeah, that's
but I
something
learned
that
it
will
at
never go away.
4:44 PM exactly.
God damn it. You're just always trying to show me up.
No, no, no. I'm with you. I'm following along here.
I'm kidding, of course. Yeah.
I think you
Uh,
have a very measured, very objective point of view on this type of thing because it's so easy to get lost in that stuff. One of the wisest things that I
uh,
was told actually recently, it's a guy he was a Christian turned Buddhist turned Theosophist, and then he was
huh.
we were talking about like the astral plane. You're talking about like, oh well, as
Yeah.
you're traveling the astral plane and you run into these succubus or vampires or devils or spooks or ghouls or whatever you want to call them. And he's like, well, the thing is that all of that stuff, whether it be UFOs or aliens or angels or demons, is not the point. Like, you're trying to get to the top of the mountain and you're
Right.
standing there, like, staring at some bushes along the side of the path or
Right.
worrying about the dragon or the wolf or the monster or the bear or like, that stuff along the journey, but that's not the fucking point.
Right.
You're looking for the truth. And, was it
Yep.
Blavatsky? Like, there's no religion higher than the truth. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that ties beautifully into what we said moments ago when you said all the lines are intersecting in this area. Stop looking at where we disagree. Look at where we're agreeing, where the message is universal, where it's across space and time. And what I have been saying as well for decades. It's all about who gives a shit if it's succubus or ghouls or whatever. Focus on the what matters, just like I just said with the Venn diagrams, with the management tools being in common sense. But, you and I can say this every day for the next 10 years and have a very popular show. It doesn't mean shit. Most people who ever touch this planet are dumb fucking idiots. And that will never fucking change unless Jesus comes back and wakes us all up or some miracle. People are dumb shits. And that is the case. Just like the movie The Matrix, when Morpheus says to Neo, I feel I offer you I owe you an apology because we have a rule. We never wake someone after a certain age. The mind has a hard time letting go. Most people who are plugged into the matrix will never wake up. I just said this on another show not too long ago, and it is what it is. It's the truth. And people just don't realize that. They're dumb fucking idiots. And I say that so passionately. These dumb pieces of shit that just hurt humanity. Man, don't get me started. And I'm not saying this because I'm an idiot. I say this because I deeply, with every goddamn fiber in my heart, love humanity and I want to help people. But most people will never give a shit. They're distracted by the dumb reality thing, by all the sports crap. I'm not saying sports are crap, but the stuff where it distracts you from bettering yourself and your family. By all the distractions of, hey, don't look at these convergence points, like you said. Let's look at the differences, how the Hindus are against us and the right wing people and the left wing people believe believe this. It's like, no, you idiot, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You just said it beautifully right now. Focus on what matters, the Venn diagram. But most people will never do this. It's only a few that will wake up, just like Jesus said. Um, Forgive me, I'm trying to remember exactly how he said it, but um, oh, goddamn, I'm really gonna mess up now. I'm sorry, but basically the message was, most people will fall off the path. Only a few will continue and be saved. Again, I'm not Christian. I'm not outing Jesus and accept him and all that stuff. I'm just giving a message that Jesus happened to say, which unfortunately is the truth of humanity.
Yeah. I mean, maybe when I get to your, stage in life, I might be as harsh. I'm not the kung fu master who's turning people away at the mountaintop yet. I mean, for me, I try to just think about it like, okay, we're all playing the same game, and some of us rolled for a really high, I don't know, wisdom or intelligence or perception check, and some people just didn't. And they're gonna play the game again until they reach the end of the game, or they'll be stuck in the game forever, and it's not really their fault. It's so easy to, like, think, "If you just put in the effort," but I'm like, maybe they're rolling the dice over and over and over again, and they're just never hitting the, you got a 21, congratulations. You nat
Yeah.
20 this guy. Not everybody gets a nat 20. Uh, I don't know. It's rough. It is difficult because on one hand, brother Doctor Herman S Jr. I feel like it's kind of our responsibility to at least discuss these things and keep that knowledge or the ideas that we have such that for
Yeah.
every 10,000 of those morons or those sleeping people in the matrix that are not ever going to wake up, or at least not in our lifetime. There's, like, 1 or 2 people who are like, "Man, I really was living a lie." And then I heard that conversation that Tyler had on his dumb podcast, and, that guy said a few things that really made me think. And I went and got a tarot
Yeah.
deck at Barnes& and Noble and started asking myself, like, "What does this symbol mean?" And then that put me on a whole journey where now I have a
Yeah.
doctorate in metaphysics.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was watching
Yeah.
the fucking
Yeah.
Price is Right one day.
Hey, you too? Yeah. Yeah, it's and who knows, maybe I should say to you, and maybe one day I'll get to your level of being more whatever you want to call it, more patient and understanding. I used to be totally politically correct. I used to be very much like you, very much speaking like you, but as I get older and as my colleagues get older, you think I'm blunt, Jesus Christ. As we get older, we're just sick of this shit. It's like, you're a fucking idiot. Just get away from me. You're not going to understand it. But that doesn't, I still agree with everything you just said. It is our job to give the information. And I want to be careful. I don't want to say that like an idiot, like I have the truth. Yeah, I feel I have the truth of the spiritual, realm or journey or the destination, whatever you want to call it. But I may be wrong, but I believe I have the truth. So I try to help people with it. But at the same time, as I said a long time ago in this interview, I see myself as a farmer. So for those people who, like you said, using your words, they roll the dice or they don't hit 21. Yeah, of course. But for those people, we plant the seed. That's why I said I'm a farmer. I'm like, here's the thing. If you don't want to get it or you can't get it, you'll get it next life or something like that. Hopefully you don't have a next life because I'm a Gnostic and this world is disgusting prison here. You don't want to come back and reincarnate. So, yeah, you do want to give the information and forever help people, but you can only go so far. And at this stage of my life and my colleagues' life, we are just of the mindset of like, okay, you know what? You can't fix stupid, as Ron White said in his comedy show. But
Um,
you still give the information. You don't give up. You just say, okay, here you go. Do whatever.
just we'll wrap it up here, but, just sum that up. I don't think you're wrong for feeling the way you do. And, it's easy to, like, look at your bracelet and slap it against your wrist and like, "What would Jesus do?" or something. And, the people always focus on like, he would take in the poor and the sick and the blind and the lepers and the whores and, he loved everybody. I'm like, he didn't tolerate Pharisees. Like there's
Right.
there's like having empathy for the ignorant or the poor or the weak. I think that it's important to remember that the real enemy are the people who know what the fuck they're doing and are doing the wrong thing with that knowledge. That's the problem. It's like, don't blame the ignorant.
Right.
Blame the people who
Yeah.
know something and could be doing better and choose not to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Alright.
agree.
But thank you for your time, and we'll do this again sometime. This is really fun. You're a great guest.
Thank you so much. I greatly enjoyed it, and thank you for having me.
Thank you again to brother Dr. Herman S Jr. for coming on the show. That was a really fascinating conversation and a wide range of topics. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will be back next time. Thank you to all of the people who support this show. You can do so as well. InTheKeep.com. All of the stuff. There's the support pages and there's various ways to do that if you would like. Yeah. Man, what a fun ride. I don't have a whole lot else to talk about right now. Recorded a bunch of these episodes like in a batch, so I'm kind of running out of shit to talk about with you guys. But I love you. God love you. Stay in the keep. Mwah. Let's take a moment to talk about Appalachia TCG. Whether you're searching for sports cards, Magic the Gathering, Flesh and Blood, Pokemon, or Yu-Gi-Oh!, they can offer you an extensive selection to suit every collector and competitor. As an official reseller, they are committed to providing authentic booster packs, singles, accessories, and rare finds that set them apart from competitors. They buy and sell lots of trading cards and toys, but their special is the Flesh and Blood trading card game, and they run official events, pre-releases, and more. Along with their ever-growing community, Appalachia TCG is the premium spot for trading, buying, and selling cards. I know what you're thinking, but I don't live in Eastern Kentucky. Well, that's the best part. You can shop online and in person. There is the official TCG player shop, eBay store, and online shop. Head on over to AppalachiaTCG.com. That's AppalachiaTCG.com. Tell them In the Keep sent you.
Hi, I'm Ben, host of the Field and Foley podcast. Every episode I sit down with incredible guests, not just sound designers, field recorders, or musicians, but experts in everything about audio. We explore the creative process behind the sounds that shape our favorite games, films, and experiences. Whether you're an audio professional or just someone who loves great sound, Field and Foley offers deep dives, behind-the-scenes stories, and insights you won't hear anywhere else.